Welcome to this explainer, everyone. Look, if you're a supply chain director, a warehouse manager, or any kind of logistics leader, you already know the truth. The flow of freight doesn't magically start or stop at the loading dock. Today, we're zooming in on the yard, that critical, high-stakes transition zone that can quite literally make or break your entire supply chain execution. When it's managed poorly, it is a massive bottleneck, but when optimized, it becomes an absolute strategic advantage.
To really grasp the stakes here, consider this number for a second. $150,000 to $500,000. That is a massive chunk of change. And according to recent data, that's exactly the annual ROI target that mid-sized distribution centers are just missing out on every single year. Why? Simply because they're relying on manual yard processes. They're paying the ultimate price in completely avoidable detention invoices, overtime labor, and missed SLAs. But, it really doesn't have to be this way.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by uncovering the supply chain black hole. Then, enter the yard management system. Next, we'll map out the gate-to-dock journey, dig into the data-backed ROI, explore AI and future yard trends, and wrap the whole thing up with transforming your yard operations.
Part 1. The supply chain black hole in all that hidden operational waste.
You're all operations executives. You are constantly tasked with moving product faster and cheaper than ever before. But why do so many of us actually call the yard the black hole of the supply chain? Well, it's because this is the exact zone where visibility just completely vanishes. Between the highly sophisticated transport network out on the road and your perfectly optimized warehouse floor inside, your freight essentially enters a twilight zone of guesswork.
Think about it. When you're trying to manage modern, multi-million-dollar logistics using, outdated spreadsheets, 1990s-era whiteboards, and clunky radio calls, you're generating massive operational waste. You feel it every day in long truck wait times, yard congestion, and those painful 15-minute manual check-ins. It inevitably leads to dock conflicts, zero trailer visibility, and incredibly fragmented communication. The freight is literally just sitting there while your detention and overtime costs skyrocket.
Moving on to Part 2, enter the yard management system and how we actually bridge this gap.
So how on earth do we fix this chaos? We bring in the right tool for the job. Enter the Yard Management System, or YMS for short. In clear, everyday business terms, a YMS is specialized logistics software that acts as your ultimate integration hub. It brings order to the chaos. It monitors, coordinates, and optimizes literally everything moving between your facility's outer gate and the dock doors. It totally replaces those chaotic manual checks with automated workflows and real-time visibility.
Now you're probably sitting there thinking, wait, don't I already have software for this? Well, let's clarify the boundaries here because it's like a giant puzzle. Your warehouse management system, your WMS, is crucial, but it manages inventory and labor inside the four walls. Your transportation management system, the TMS, is also vital, but it handles network routing and freight rates out on the road. The YMS? It owns that vital transition zone right in between. Without a YMS, you've got a massive integration gap where trailers and drivers just vanish from your system of record.
Let's move to Part 3 and see how this builds out, the gate-to-dock journey and operational flow.
Let's walk through the life cycle of a single shipment arriving at a facility to see how organic and structured a YMS makes this whole process. First up, appointment booking. Carriers self-schedule their arrival through a portal, perfectly aligning with your actual dock availability. Second, when that truck pulls up, the gate check-in is completely automated. We're talking under 2 minutes. Third, the YMS digitally assigns the trailer to a specific parking slot and pings spotters on their mobile devices for live tracking. Fourth, intelligent logic steps in to assign the absolute optimal dock door based on the load type. And finally, the system actively monitors dwell times to prevent detention before processing a super rapid gate checkout. It's incredibly seamless.
And here is the so what for your business. When you deploy these core capabilities, the benefits hit instantly. Automated gates, they directly result in much faster turnarounds. Real-time tracking gives you that increased visibility you've been desperately needing. Intelligent dock scheduling guarantees improved dock utilization. And mobile spotter management leads directly to better labor productivity. You're instantly connecting your transportation networks right into your warehouse operations. You're swapping out chaotic radio chatter for smooth, automated, auditable workflows. Which brings us to Part 4, the data-backed ROI. Let's quantify this efficiency.
As logistics leaders, I know we all speak the exact same language, and that language is metrics, efficiency, and hard numbers. Think about labor productivity for a second. In a manual yard, locating one specific trailer usually means someone has to do physical yard walks and make a bunch of radio calls. On average, that takes about 50 minutes. But with a YMS map query, that exact same search takes just 2 minutes. Imagine multiplying those 48 saved minutes across dozens or even hundreds of trailers every single day. The time savings are staggering.
And then, of course, there's the dreaded cost of detention. Facilities that implement intelligent dock scheduling and proactive dwell alerts typically see a 35 to 45% reduction in detention fees within their very first year. Honestly, that's huge. The system literally warns your team before a trailer hits its free time limit, so you aren't just saving time, you are actively, aggressively protecting your bottom line.
Let's pivot to part 5, AI and future yard trends. We're talking the next generation.
So the baseline ROI is crystal clear today, right? But let's look ahead for a second and establish some thought leadership here. By 2027 or 2030, the industry is shifting away from systems that merely record events after the fact. We're moving toward AI that autonomously predicts and prevents bottlenecks before they even happen. We're talking real-time digital twin visualization of your entire facility. We're looking at AI-powered autonomous dock optimization that continuously reevaluates schedules based on labor and truck queues. Predictive analytics will flag those detention risks way before the clock runs out. And computer vision at the gate, it'll process vehicles in seconds without a single human keystroke. The yard of the future isn't just organized, it's totally predictive.
And that brings us to our final section, transforming your yard operations and figuring out your next steps.
This is honestly the most important part of this explainer. I want you to take a hard look at your own organizational maturity today. Are you feeling these exact symptoms? Are you experiencing frequent yard congestion during your seasonal peaks? Do you completely lack real-time insights into where your equipment actually is? Are carrier complaints ticking up because of wait times? Are you finding it nearly impossible to scale operations seamlessly because your gate processes are just too incredibly manual? Look, if you're nodding your head right now, your traditional processes are no longer just a little inefficient. Actually, they are actively damaging your customer satisfaction and putting a hard ceiling on your growth.
It is absolutely time to stop guessing what's happening in the black hole of your supply chain. The data is clear, and frankly, the technology is proven. I highly encourage you to dive into the complete guide on yard management systems to gain a much deeper understanding of how to transform your operations. But before you do that, I want to leave you with one final, tough question to chew on. How much is your invisible yard really costing your bottom line every single day?